Hello, Eagle fans. Hey, it's about that time. We're getting very close to Egg Watch 2023. And before you get anxious thinking that you might have missed something, this image of Liberty and an egg is from last year, and it's something that you have to look forward to. Oh, we're all getting really excited for this season. We've seen Liberty and Guardian building up their nest, and we're getting close. So let me go over the historical data with you on when you can expect the first egg to be laid. Okay, I'm going to go to my data. Now, you'll see here that during 12 seasons that we were able to actually track the first egg being laid. That date varied from the earliest at February 5th and the latest at February 15th. Again, that's when the first egg is laid, and then any subsequent eggs after that would be laid approximately on 2 to 3 day intervals after that. And usually 3 days after for the second egg, and 2 to 3 days, usually 3 days if there is a third egg, if we could be so fortunate. Okay, what this graph, it's kind of a histogram, represents is each yellow rectangle has a year in it, and in that year, for instance, in 2012, the first egg was laid on February 5th, and in 2009, 13, 15, and 18, the first egg was laid on February 6th, and so on. So you'll see kind of a cluster of data here early, and then kind of a middle cluster and a late cluster, as late as February 15th. In the last 3 years, when Guardian has been Liberty's mate, Guardian is Liberty's third mate. In 2020, it was on February 12th. 2021, it was February 10th. 2022 was February 9th. So all of these kind of fall in that middle cluster. So if you're marking your calendars, you can most likely expect the first egg to be laid somewhere between February 5th and February 15th. It's certainly possible for it to happen a little bit earlier or a little bit later, and we will start Egg Watch probably a few days before February 5th, just in case Liberty lays that first egg early. Okay, so yes, there are 12 years where observations were able to be made here. There are other years when we didn't have a camera, or we weren't able to access the area where Liberty had her nest. So there are years where the data is missing. Now we get on to just for fun data. I am not advocating that there is any correlation between the male mate and when an egg is laid. This is simply just to show you a graphical representation of when and how it occurred by mate. The blue rectangles are for Patriot, when that's Patriot was Liberty's first mate. The amber color is for Spirit, Liberty's second mate, and the green is for Guardian, who is Liberty's current and third mate. So you'll see that, again, Guardian, in the last 3 years, they have laid during that kind of middle cluster of dates between the whole historical separation. I would expect that the longer Guardian is Liberty's mate, that we will gain first egg laid dates all the way through the entire collection of historic dates, likely from February 5th through the 15th. Let me go to another thing that's just for fun. There is no data that I have ever seen that suggests that there is a connection between the moon phase and when an eagle lays its first egg. But I have tracked that anyway, just for fun, and to see if it holds any weight for these birds in this nest. Okay, so the February 5th through February 7th, I call the early cluster. And you'll see by the key diagram down here that the yellow is full moon, the red is last quarter moon, the purple is first quarter moon, and the gray is new moon. Now, we'll see this early cluster includes only moons which have been in the last quarter and full moon. The middle cluster of dates have been new moon and first quarter, and the late cluster have been all types of moons except for the last quarter. Okay, so what does all this maybe mean? And again, just for fun. If you look on the last row of this chart here, where it says 2023 moon phases, you'll see that this year the full moon will be on February 5th, and the last quarter moon will be on February 13th. And essentially, these are the two phases of the moon that will fall within the historic dates of the earliest and latest earliest and latest dates that the first egg is laid. So if we look at the fact that no matter when the egg will be laid this year, it's going to either be near a full moon or a last quarter, we have to ask ourselves, yes, this late cluster does include a couple of full moons, but the full moon is not going to actually be near that late cluster. The full moon is closest to the early cluster. And by the same token, the last quarter moon falls within that late cluster, and we've never had an egg laid during the last quarter in the late cluster. So what am I implying that means? I am implying that since the egg will be laid somewhere close to the full moon or last quarter, it looks like it coincides with this early cluster. Again, this is just for fun. There is no scientific basis to make that claim. But if we look at our limited data, which we say, if you've flipped a coin for the first time in your life and you didn't know what the results would be, if you flipped it twice and it came up tails twice, you might say, well, it always comes up tails. Well, you don't have enough data to really make that claim. You have to flip the coin many times. So in that case, we probably don't have enough data here to make claims about when the eggs will be laid. That's called an insufficient sample size. But for the sample size that we do have, we'll see that 2 of the 12 occurrences that we're sure about were in the new moon for 17%. The first quarter is about 25%, and the last quarter is about 17%. What is very interesting to note is that the full moon has occurred closest to the first egg laid date 5 of the 12 times, which is 42%, which is far more than any of these other moon phases considered individually. Again, just for fun and for no other or no scientific reason here. Anyway, that's the data for our Egg Watch of 2023. Here's your chart again, when we can expect that. And I will be waiting and watching right along with you as we enter this exciting time in the 2023 season. Be safe and be well, everybody.